Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Grow Your Path to Wellness. If this is your first time listening, my colleague and I, Amanda, we host a new wellness guest every week, and our new episodes release every Sunday after 5 p.m. So be sure to like, subscribe, follow us on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. It's a mouthful. And we post our video recording onto our YouTube, which can also be found at Grow Your Path to Wellness. Amanda, she is still continuing to take time to care for herself and her new little one. So I'm going to continue being the sole host and hosting our guests until she is ready to return with us. But last week I hosted Ashley Chambrello. She educated us on the therapeutic healing method called brain spotting. So if you missed that, you'll want to go back to last week's episode and check that out. This week, I am welcoming Heidi Gruss, and we're going to talk about how women can repurpose their emotional trash can and become emotionally secure and mentally strong. So I'm so excited, and welcome, Heidi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thanks for that introduction. Happy to be here. I'm an avid promoter of personal growth and lifelong learning, and the learning's never done. And then when we start, learning new things, we're unlearning other things. And we're going to talk a lot about that today as I talk about my new program that just launched 3 months ago, the transformation methodology, and all the work that I'm doing. So I'm excited to talk about that with you today.
Yes, we are so excited. If you don't mind, we can jump in. And can you give our audience, our community, just a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah. It's funny. I'm like probably all of your listeners out there. I'm an average, woman who wears a million hats. I'm the mom of 3 daughters. I'm the wife to my husband who runs his own business and career. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, been practicing for just over 18 years, and a coach. Working with primarily women, but I get some now clients too, who are really looking to come out of hiding and start, stepping into their lives and living at a higher level. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, so you're based in Connecticut. I know we were talking before we started recording. So I know Amanda and I were over here in Ohio, and so you're up in Connecticut.
Yep, I've got a practice here in Connecticut. And loving the fall weather right now.
I bet. Yes. And everybody who knows me knows, like, as soon as the warm weather leaves, I start to get just like a hermit. But I'm a fan of like fall or winter. And Amanda's like, I'm just going to pretend that I don't know that about you. So she's going to giggle whenever she's listening to this.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you do both. So coaching, and then you have a private practice, and then do you mind, might get more into it as we go, but the program you just launched, is that in your coaching side?
It's on the coaching side. Yeah. I'm a therapist, trained and educated and have gained a lot of experience there, and certified in trauma. And I've heard all the trauma, and it's story after story, listening to women and all that they've come through and all that they've survived, and then being able to help them transform and live as self-caring, functional, independent members of our world here, right? It's very, very inspiring to do that work. But then I realized that, there's a whole other tribe of women out there who are just like you and I, who have also, lived through their traumas and have gotten to that other side, have started succeeding in life, have started achieving these, other goals, whether they've become, leaders in their communities, or, they're in high ranking positions within their careers, they're being exceptional parents, raising, young ones. But then hitting this sort of glass ceiling of like, why am I not filled with joy? I thought at this point, after, working through all of this stuff and achieving great success, that I would be happy. and I would be filled with joy, and I'm not. And what is that all about? And that's where I started sort of leveraging everything I had learned as a therapist and looking at now, how do I help this other, group of women that I can so relate to in so many different levels? How do I help them feel more like embodied in their success, and then feel inspired to keep going and to, move on to the next level? Yeah. So that's what inspired me to create this transformation methodology, because, I know that, I know how to allow women to look at who they really want to become and start being that person today, and letting go of all of the circumstances and expectations that they feel like they should be meeting every day to be able to really reconnect with themselves, build a trust within themselves, and have a real personal level of success.
Sounds so powerful. And then my brain, me having my own private practice, but not like a coaching side, like I can see how probably seamless or how empowering, having both of those pieces and doing, that kind of process with those women can be I know how painful going through the therapy process is for me as I'm doing it with my clients. So it has to be so rewarding. And this new program, it sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. So you're doing great things, and we love having people on and sharing all of the things that they're doing to spread, as we say, any information about wellness. So again, thank you for being here. So let's jump in. So our first point here that we were going to lead in with is, what are the most common ways that women hide their brilliance? And as you refer to it, they stay stuck in quicksand.
Yeah, so I use this quicksand analogy because I feel like most people can relate to it. When I ask a woman, like, what is your quicksand? What's keeping you stuck? What is that heaviness in your life? Because, think about when you're in quicksand, it feels like you're just sinking, right? And the more you move around, sometimes the deeper you sink. And being in quicksand, you really need that tree branch. You need someone or something from the outside to help you out. It's not the people who are in quicksand with you that are going to hoist you out. It's someone from the outside. And that's the analogy that I use to allow these women to connect with me and my program, and to see this as an opportunity to give them the joy and the relief that they're looking for.
So you're referring to your program and your assistance to these women. You're the outside branch, so to speak, to help them get out of that quicksand. So I love, Amanda and our brains love analogies and comparisons and things. So when I saw that on your talking points, so super helpful. But let's get into your perspective of the most common ways that you see women hide their brilliance.
Yeah, and that's how the quicksand analogy is super helpful as well, is because when, in quicksand, it's really a lifestyle. We talk about the quicksand lifestyle and the things that are contributing to that quicksand, feeling, right? The feeling where they're paralyzed and stuck. And so we're looking at, who are you spending your time with? What sorts of activities are you doing in your free time? What's the pace of your life? How much downtime do you have? How much time do you have to connect with yourself? How much time do you have to, get out in nature? How are you spending your money? What are your relationships like? What are you doing for a living? How, are you fulfilled in that way? Because that's where we identify that women are just hiding, oftentimes living their lives according to the expectations that other people are setting for them. They tell me these stories, which I can relate to too, where it's like, I really should, go over and spend time with my mom today, when it's a beautiful day and I have the opportunity to spend the entire day with my kids and my husband, right? But it's that nagging should, where I should be with her. It's the same story with my clients that I work with, where they are just sucked into obligations that they really have no energy or time for. And, so to ask them, what would it be like if you put boundaries around the amount of time you spent with your mom, or, how you go about sort of negotiating all of the competing priorities in your life so that you're number one, and then your family's number one, if that's most important to you. But it's really, to come out of quicksand means asking my client to take ownership over her life. And then we start unpacking this emotional trash can. And I don't know if you want me to go into that a little bit more, but you said you like analogies. I think you'll really like this one too. I compare it to the kitchen trash can, right? And this is, being an international coach, I can tell you that having shared this now with people across many, many countries, they all relate to this analogy where, the kitchen trash can tends to be that central trash can in the house, right? And as it starts to fill up, there's something that we all do that before we go and take out that trash can, right? And I don't know if you can guess what that one thing is. Any idea?
I don't, like, you mean, like, I feel like all the things get done before that trash can gets emptied, but.
So as that trash is filling up and we're about ready to take out the bag.
We smash it.
Yeah. And everybody laughs when I say this to them, right? They're kind of like a little bit embarrassed to admit, like, yeah, you stick your hand in there and you push that trash down, right? Because we want to get our full value out of that 5-cent trash bag. And so we start putting more trash in. We empty the, bathroom and bedroom garbages in there. We might even drag it over, if you're like me, to the fridge, and I'm looking for any old food I can throw out too, right? To the point where when we pull that bag out, it's like, ripping and it's leaking, it's overflowing, it stinks, Well, we treat our emotional trash can the same way. My clients, they've got a million things going on in their life. They're high achieving, people who take on, sometimes more than they're even able to get done. And so when life happens and there's overwhelming emotions, good and bad, right? Whatever they can't handle, whatever's unexpected, unplanned for, they put aside in their emotional trash can, right? With the intention of getting around to it, right? But you know what it's like to live a fast-paced life and to always have a lot going on, right? There's never a convenient time to go back and deal with the old baggage, right? We just keep layering our, emotions and all the emotional kind of trash stuff in that emotional trash can, right? To the point where when it starts leaking out, for us, just like the kitchen garbage, it's leaking out in other ways. It's leaking out in, irritability. It's leaking out in resentment. It's leaking out in, lack of patience and feeling just overwhelmed, tired, self-doubt, overanalyzing, all that stuff, to the point where you don't even know what's in that emotional trash can anymore. And a lot of times as we start unpacking some of that, again, that's where we get all of these different roles. We get, problems that, my clients will tell me, this doesn't even belong to me. Like, this is my mom's, this is my sister's, this is my, but they're carrying it around, holding that emotional responsibility. And that's what's robbing them of their present day life, right? So unpacking that really allows them to see these patterns that they've been living with for, years and years and years, that are now built up and robbing them of the joy in their everyday.
That's because as I wrapped up with our guest last week, because I was like, I knew Amanda had reached out to you, or you guys had coordinated about scheduling for you to join us. And I was like, because I wasn't like a part of that conversation, which happens all the time. I'll schedule people, she schedules people. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to find out, because it felt like an analogy. Obviously it is an analogy. When I was putting it, like I was getting ready to introduce who was coming this week, I was like, we're going to talk about this. I said, so stay tuned. I don't even know what this analogy is referring to quite yet. So that's amazing. And you think about it, like, yeah, you're constantly, and again, this isn't just about women, but as two women, and I can speak for myself, I feel like just in our society, those larger scale expectations of us to be the caretakers, to be the yes people, to, yeah, no, I'll make it work, I'll handle it, I will, and we're just shoving so many things, including things for ourselves. Because with my clients and just my practice, I say all the time, it's not just about saying no more often, but it's just as much about saying yes to things that actually bring you peace, joy, and doesn't have to have anything to do with somebody else.
And so many of my clients come to me not even knowing what it is that brings them joy, because they've grown so far away from connecting with themselves. They can't answer that question. And it's normalizing that. It's like, I get it. I remember that too. Listen, we've all been there, where it's like you take a look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who is this person? But it's then saying, okay, you don't know who you are right now. Let's get her back. Let's figure out who it is you want to be. It's not too late. And that's what nags at my heart is, speaking with a client last week who says, well, at 52, I've always been this way. I don't think it's ever going to change. And it's building that belief and that vision for that woman to say, but why can't it? It takes as much energy to talk ourselves into something as it does to talk ourselves out of it. We can sit here and find every excuse, every reason why it shouldn't happen, it couldn't happen. But we can just say the inverse, and it's just as much truth.
And that saying I use, like, perspective is reality. So if I'm going into this with a perspective already, just telling myself, this is not possible. I can never feel that way. I don't even know what it feels like to feel that way. And just, even I frame it in my work and it connects right to this, is I said, just be curious about it. Just have a curiosity mindset. And then
I love the curiosity mindset.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So I don't know, do you feel like this would be a good place to go into what exactly it means to live out of circumstance?
Yeah, I think it builds off of what we were just talking about, right? It's, looking at, for that 52-year-old woman that I was working with last week, it's like, okay, I get where you're at in your life. You've described all of the things that you've got going on. And now it's, are you going to define who you are and where you're going based off of these variables? Or can you actually give yourself the opportunity to think, what if it could be different? Right? So instead of saying, well, because I was diagnosed with a chronic illness, I'm never going to be able to run again. Right. And I remember when a doctor said that to me, Heidi, you're never going to be able to run. This is the situation as it was. I was 36 or 37 years old, clean bill of health, otherwise, like, able, fit. And hearing that feedback was like, oh man, so I guess this is my new, my new being, my new outlook, I'm never going to be able to do these things. And so now I challenge women, after I just finished a 6.5 mile run this morning, right, is to get rid of the nevers and to get rid of the always, as we use those to justify the position that we're in.
Yeah.
As we use those to limit ourselves and give into a limitation or a boundary that has been set for you, right? So boundaries and limits are critical in life, but when you set them yourself, when they become your choice versus accepting a limit or a boundary that's been put on you without you buying into that.
Yeah. And that kind of stepping back into my power. Like, yes, this person is telling me that, this is a very important, diagnosis, and it could place limitations on my life, but I'm the expert in my own life and I'm the expert in my own body. So how can I respect those types of boundaries, but also create my own and step into my power here instead of just becoming and staying stuck in that feeling limited. And to my brain, it feels, because then we're going to get into expectations in a minute, but I think it's interesting because I feel like for us as women, very often when we get in that quicksand place, it's like, I'm going to desperately try everything that I can to meet expectations for everybody else. But when it comes to myself, I stay stuck in limitations, or I don't have the same expectations for myself. I look outside and I say, what does everybody else need from me? And I need to be that instead of what do I need from myself?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, as part of the transformation, right, is once women can connect with the idea, just the possibility, for me, what if I could just run a mile? Like, what would that be? What would that be like? It's breaking it down, right? Like all the way down to the emotions behind it. It starts with a thought. It starts with an idea. It starts with a curiosity, right? And sometimes the quicksand is women look at the big picture that they want and they think, oh God, that's so far from who I am today. There's no way, that gap is too large. But it's like, well, do you not sit down to read a book because you can't read the entire book in one sitting? Or do you accept that 10 pages or a chapter is good enough, right? Nobody sits down and reads an entire book in one sitting. I mean, maybe, I can't, that's for sure. I don't have that amount of time. Yeah. But when you slowly chip away towards something, then all of a sudden the goal seems much more possible. And so I think we are going to get more into expectations, but it's like it's little bits of progress add up to the big finish, right? The woman who is complaining to me that she didn't lose the 3 pounds, right, that she wanted to lose that week, she only lost 1. It's like, you got to lose 1 to lose 3, though, right? We can't overlook the 1. We can't overlook, the small little bits of progress. We have to celebrate those. It's not just about the big goals, the big milestones. So
yeah, that brings to my, the process of making a change or focusing on myself, or because that's where we can find those blips of joy, and as I'm going through it. But it brings me back to that, like the importance of focusing on those each part of the process, and then that builds up, like not just for the sake of comparison or that example, but not just the weight loss in each pound that I lose, I am physically feeling better, but emotionally seeing each step and being present for myself physically and emotionally in that process. Because I feel like we can get very disconnected from ourselves physically and emotionally while we're in that quicksand, and however long we've been stuck there. I just kind of disconnect. And like you said, we have that moment where we look in the mirror and you're like, holy cow, who am I? Where has the time gone? Or I'm still feeling stuck in the same place. And it's like I gotta reconnect and then allow myself to be present in each moment instead of like focusing on that larger picture end game where I'll feel happy when.
Right. And because this is the thing that a lot of women aren't talking about, right? Is that then you hit, let me back up and say this, right? Typically my clients, when, they've told me their life story, right? They were the ones who, they did well in school. They went on to pursue some type of advanced education or, training program. They've gotten the degrees. They had this vision where they were going to enter into a career and be fulfilled. So they went after the career. Then they had this vision that they were going to, have the family and do all the things, take the vacations, right? And so they, have a partner or a spouse. They've got a couple of kids. They're doing all the things. But emotionally, they're like, I thought this was going to feel different from how it actually feels. I thought I was going to be at this place where it's like, I'm living the dream. I checked all the boxes of all the things I was going to do, but instead they're looking at themselves feeling guilty, not even realizing that there's a way out of this, but feeling like I should be happy. I should feel fulfilled and content and joyful. Why am I not? Why am I feeling like there's even more pressure to now sustain my life at this level? It feels like there's even more to do. And that's the new quicksand for them. They're stuck in, I have to keep doing all this just to sustain the sort of position or level that they've now achieved.
Absolutely. And I could go on and on, but like all of the different things that go into that in our field, what we call like self-actualization, like feeling like I'm showing up in the world as my best self. And none of us are our best self all day, every day. Like that's not what we're saying, but feeling that rather than like, okay, I've done the things and now what? But it's not like a now what, as in I'm feeling very fulfilled and I'm feeling, very at peace. It's, I'm going to keep looking externally for these things to feel self-actualized.
Right. And now to bring them back and allow them for my clients to see how the true transformation comes when the validation comes from internally.
Yes. Self-compassion, that validation.
And permission, like permission to step into your own personal power and claim it, to connect with your voice and learn how to use it. I mean, while every client's transformation is individualized to what it is that they're trying to achieve, there's so many themes that are similar, and communication is such a big one. Learning how, or not, well, it is learning how to use their voice, but identifying, these conversations that, maybe are long overdue. That might be in the emotional trash can too, where it's, there are emotionally charged conversations that need to happen to bring closure to certain life events, or to, allow a woman to feel more empowered, moving forward in their life. There's
I could go on, but like my brain and I think, and I'm like, I'm thinking of my own, like just because we're therapists or we're in this field doesn't mean we don't have our own emotional trash can that we're, doing our own work on. And it always goes back to that, like, okay, that it's a lot of times those parts of ourselves or aspects of our life that we've just like shoved down. This needs my energy. This needs my focus. This is my next goal. And then the other stuff gets shoved down in there.
Right.
So let's talk about those expectations and the expectations that you feel like women, we have to put an end to them so we can start living more authentically and to prioritize ourselves.
Seriously. I mean, so here's the deal, right? I know with my clients, right, they've got a lot to do. I've got a lot to do, but we have to accept that the to-do lists don't ever really get done. Right. So we work in a helping profession. I tend to attract, women who work or live in sort of helping professions and capacities in their life. Right. And there's always someone else who needs help. Right. There's always something else that we can do. So the reason why I draw your attention to this is because if we think, oh, once I get through all these things that I need to get done today, then I can go and do these things for myself. Then I can go and take care of myself. Then I can go and allow myself to decompress or have, a nice outlet at the end of the day. It rarely ever happens because while we've got that to-do list for the day, then there's the 20 things that come up that we weren't planning for, right? And we're really good at multitasking and learning how to reprioritize the day. And we're, highly functional. So we get a lot done. But if we don't prioritize time for ourselves first, the day is going to run us. Mm-hmm. And so it's, I can still remember when my 3 daughters were real little. I mean, because we count by twos in our house, everyone's 2 years apart. So it was busy. It was chaotic. And I would read these, personal growth books, written by inspiring women, who would talk about these morning routines and, having this time in solitude every morning. And I was envious. I was like, how the heck am I can't even get 10 minutes, without somebody, needing something and trying to hustle out the door and get everyone where they need to be, by the time they need to be there. And, then I made the decision, right? I made the commitment. I'm going to take 10 minutes. And I started this daily gratitude, daily affirmation, and setting an intention. First thing in the morning, it was 3 things. I've now kind of expanded on that a little bit more, and I could get it done in 10 minutes. And it was just a really quick process, but it was 10 minutes to connect with myself, because even though I didn't have 60 minutes to do all these, fancy meditations and things that I was reading about, it was like, well, what if I just took 10? Is 10 realistic? While I'm drinking that cup of coffee, I'm going to drink it anyway. Why can't I scribble down some things, right? Mm-hmm. And then it got to the point where on the mornings when I wasn't doing this daily, kind of journaling activity, I felt restless driving into work, starting my day. It was like, oh my God, I didn't have that 10 minutes to connect with myself. And now it's to the point where, it's like I cringe if I hear footsteps coming downstairs, before I'm done with my whole morning ritual, right? Because it's like I just so savor that time with myself, because I'm now, the value is there because I see the benefit of it. But it wouldn't happen at the end of my day. I can tell you right now, it would, because there's always, things still to get done, the laundry, picking the kids up from activities and doing all the things. And so, just allowing, my clients to accept the fact that, you've got to put you first. Otherwise it's not going to happen. And if you don't do it, you're going to continue sacrificing, the joy that you say you want, right? It's costing you that fulfillment and that connection that you're craving. So
it's like we go through, we navigate the world, and like you said, you know, when we started this talking point here, it was like we very quickly we adapt and we make time and space and somehow create in more energy if we don't have it, for things that come up suddenly. But that being intentional and setting aside, or, you know, because we can't put more hours in the day, but how can I have more control over what the hours in my day look like, and how they're impacting me? And I hear so often, and I'm sure you do too, but not just women, but about anybody, when I'm having this conversation with them, it's like this mindset or this perspective that if I make time for myself, that I'm taking time from somebody else, something else. It's like I'm like, no, those can exist like together. It doesn't have to be I'm taking away from my spouse or my children. It's like you're actually making yourself more capable of showing up in the way that they deserve.
And that they deserve too, that how we do, you know, what we deserve. You know, it's I did a talk on this recently where it was like, you know, why are you settling for this, for giving yourself the scraps, right? Like, don't you deserve, you know, the best version of yourself? Don't you deserve your own best version? You know, so I absolutely understand exactly what you're describing.
It's like that and that words are hard for me this morning, apparently. But like, how do you break through that mindset or that perspective of, if I am putting myself first, that means I'm taking away from areas of my life?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure if your thing is going out, but listen, this is how this is one of the ways. There's two things that I want to say here. The first one is, are you good? Okay. There's two things that I want to say. And the first one here is that in the beginning, we're talking about small increments of time. And everyone says they're out of time, but I'm going to tell you, we have more time than we think we actually have in our day. You know, the first place I will go with clients is, how much time do you spend on social media, right? Because as a society, we all will, you know, scroll these social media apps. You know, it's sort of like the new way to kind of numb out for a little bit, but we never do it for less than 10 minutes at a clip, right? And so it's like, well, what if you just repurposed that 10 minutes where you whipped out, you know, I have my $1.49, you know, Staples notebook, right? And it's just, you enter into a written process, right? Or you enter into a visualization, right? Instead of, you know, just this mindless scroll that you have nothing in the end to show for it. You know, it's like, great, you figured out, you know, what Sally next door is up to, you know, like, who cares really? But the other piece here is helping women, you know, develop that vision for who it is they really want to be, right? And, you know, when you round out that vision, it's not just, you know, what do you want to look like? What do you want to be doing? It's, how do you want to feel? You know, what are the thoughts that are going through your mind, right? And like, I ask them, like, so when you're this person, when you've achieved this being that you want to be, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thought in your mind, right? Is it like, oh, what is my first appointment for the day? Or is it, you know, like, oh, a whole nother day of possibility, you know, like, what do you want your first thought to be? I want them to be able to connect with this being in a way that they can almost start imagining what it would be like to live in that being. And then it's the question back to them, right? So I then pose this, question and I say, all right, so when you're sitting on your couch, at 7 o'clock at night, and that's your time to put it, to pursue your creative process or whatever it is that, to do your workout or to, snuggle with your kids. And instead you're zoning out in front of Netflix. I want you to ask yourself, what would that exceptional woman that you're trying to be, what would she be doing right now? Right? Would she be zoning out in front of Netflix, or would she be doing the thing that, is going to get her closer to that joy? What would she be doing? And that becomes the game changer, right? And, I hear my clients tell me all the time, it's like, well, all of a sudden I thought of what would that woman be doing, and it changes their behavior, because it's not, you don't just, weight loss is, I feel like everybody connects to that, right? But you don't just like lose the weight and then you're happy. It's like, okay, now you've lost the weight and you're still the same person unless you've done the internal transformation to match that outside appearance, right? That's why you can go on the shopping spree and get the clothes to look like, the person that you want to be. But on the inside, if everything's still the same, you're just wearing different clothes, yes. So it's getting them really, really connected to who it is or what it is they're trying to achieve.
Vision. And I like that wording too, that I'm repurposing my time. I'm not making more time, or I'm not taking away time from, I'm repurposing my time. And then my repurposing process is linked to that vision of what that woman or that man or, that person, what would that person be doing?
Right. Because in that sort of envisioning process, right? And it's a lengthy exercise that we actually kind of revisit a couple of times to make sure it's really, really fine tuned, because, the description, it really brings out the person's values, really brings out my client's values. And so that's where also you build in that intention too, where it's personal and intentional. It's not just what would my mom like to see in me? What would my partner like to see in me?
I was going to say earlier, and I think somewhere in the beginning of our conversation here, I felt it come up, but I could squirrel off to a million times, but it came up again, that getting my own foundation of what my own core values are, understanding how they've been influenced by, family or society or so many things, and then building myself off of those. And I feel like that could be a good tie-in of us becoming that emotionally secure and mentally strong. But I was curious about this point, what you feel like that number one solution to keeping women progressing and achieving these changes as they have developed that vision and their own values. What's that number one solution to keep them achieving that change that they're looking for?
It's letting go of the perfection. I mean, think about, like, that is the roadblock. It's I couldn't do my full, 60-minute workout, so I just didn't do it at all, right? It's like, hold on, what if you did 20 minutes? What if you walked down the street, 10 minutes in front of your house and turned around and walked back? Like, can we recognize just even the small efforts, whereas instead the value is on when we do the big thing. And, unfortunately, there are times when we can't get the big thing done. So instead, can we accept that the little things count too? And that all or nothing thinking, this is the way that I think most people sabotage their progress.
Yes, I was going to say, I was like, that feels like a self-sabotaging way of, and again, that comes from so many places, as we know, and as you're building up these, doing this work is this is a process, and it's like, I need to get out of my own way, basically. Like
I say that all the time. Yeah, like you got to get off your own back. Like you're being so hard on yourself. I mean, if your best friend came to you and said, "I didn't get my 60-minute workout in today. I only did 20 minutes." Would you think less of her? Like, no. So why do you think less of yourself?
Yes.
And so it's, again, the kindness and all of this, it starts with how are you thinking about what you're doing, how because all of your thoughts are guiding your actions, right? And so I'll use like this crossroads visual, right, where there's one road that's leading towards the life that you've had, and then the other road is leading towards the life that you want. And once you commit to that life that you want, it's every thought, every decision, every action has to be in alignment with that end goal. And, even just the small, subtle, things that we talk and how we talk to ourselves can sabotage our progress down that road. And sometimes, I'll catch clients where they're, 3 steps down the road, and then, the big unexpected, life event happens, and, they're like, well, this is the reason why I can't keep going, because I have to now go and be this person over here in the complete opposite direction, because this is what, my mom needs, the kids need, my partner needs, whatever. And so I'll try again towards that other road at another time. And it's like, why is it either or? Like, why can't we learn how to be down this new road now with this new circumstance, right? So again, I think that gets back to that whole, how do you stop living out of circumstance? It's, okay, here's this new experience. Let's bring it along with us down on this new road. Again, how would that woman or person be who we're trying to become? How would she handle this new experience?
Yeah. And as soon as you were using that comparison, or the crossroads, I instantly was, and you gave up, a family circumstance came up. Like, I felt myself in my own mindset after us talking about this topic today. I was saying, how would that person that you're envisioning handle that situation? I don't have to completely drop and then go down that other path again, and then I feel like that feeling of having to start over, or why try again, or obviously I'm never going to be able to do that, and then we can spiral right back.
Right. And it's that self-abandonment that I know my clients connect with, right? Because they've done that over and over and over again. It's like they've waited for this perfect opportunity in their life to now go and go after that person that they want to be. And then when life happens, they feel obligated or stuck, that they have to now choose this new person or going back and being who everybody else wants them to be, going right back into that situation. And it's that self-abandonment that then perpetuates the constant restarting, and there's so much energy lost in the process of restarting over and over and over again, perpetuating feelings of failure, and then, and that's the spiral.
Yes. And that feeling that it's like I've implanted that expectation that if something comes up, then and again, like being therapists, I know that these mindsets or these habits or these behaviors or, core beliefs, they didn't form for us overnight,
Right.
but that it comes from somewhere. It's like, I have developed this belief that I'm not worthy maybe of these things. And I'm expected to just abandon myself to care for others, or to fix things, and it's like, you have to take a hard step outside of that and take a very hard look at those things. And it's like, okay, those are definitely limiting core beliefs that are just perpetuating that
It's
quicksand feeling.
Yeah, I call it like the default thinking. It's the quicksand thinking, right? Exactly. It's if you're not super intentional, right, and you're not able to slow yourself down in those instances, you will go right back to the default thinking, which is, I've got to go in and rescue or keep the peace or, solve the conflict or whatever. And yeah, so, but these are also, when you use the word belief, like I try not to give the old way of thinking so much power. It's like, well, hold on, but what if your belief could be the exact opposite? Like, what if, your instinct could be, if there's a family crisis, like that you delegate, certain aspects to other people. Like, what if, and it's all the, introducing opportunities to relieve yourself from the burden of the role that you really don't want to keep holding, right? And so we have to rewrite the story.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Rewriting the story, repurposing time, such useful, concrete things that I know our community, when they listen to this, it'll be very helpful. I mean, it's been helpful for me, and I've just first time, having this conversation with you. So as we wrap up, we ask every guest, not to put anybody on the spot, but almost like whatever comes to your mind, that you would like to leave our audience with, or if there's like a mantra that you live by, or just any last words or tidbits, and then where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so it's the mantra, I would say, is there is a solution to every problem, right? And so to ask yourself, when you're feeling stuck, are you finding a problem with every solution, or are you willing to find the solution for the problem, right? So that's a game-changing thought right there. And I would love to continue this conversation with anyone else who's as passionate about this transformation as I am. And people can find me. I'm on Instagram at Heidi Gruss. Same with Facebook. And my website, HeidiGruss.com. Keep it all the same. That way, all you have to do is remember one name, and you can find me in all the channels there.
I just realized that I am putting that in our show notes for our audience to be able to find you. And I should have asked at the beginning how to pronounce your last name. I always hate whenever the people my last name. I'm like, well, I did that.
It's fine. I'm used to it. We joke about it all the time at home. And sometimes my oldest, she likes to mess around with people, and she'll mispronounce her own last name and tell them it's the wrong way, and just for giggles, we kind of get a giggle out of it.
I apologize. I'm usually good about asking, and I realized as soon as you leaving us where I can find you, so
it's fun. All good.
Oh, no, thank you so much. But yes, thank you, Heidi, for being here again, giving us some of your morning on this Sunday. Everybody can find her. We'll have that in the show notes. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot them over to us, and we can get them to Heidi, or you can find her at those places in our show notes. For our listeners, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us both on your podcast streaming platforms as well as YouTube. And like I said, please, we love if somebody leaves comments or feedback, or if there's topics that we haven't covered yet, or guests that you feel like would be a good fit that we can look into. Any feedback is appreciated. And next week will be another episode of our trauma and chakra healing series. So Lisa Schaefer will be returning, and we will be covering the third eye chakra next. So again, Heidi, thank you. And you're always welcome back if there's pieces of this conversation that you feel like would be helpful for us to continue having here as well.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care.